somewhere under 9 feet of ash, a dog is still chained to a post. You've probably seen the photograph. Twisted, contorted, frozen in the exact position it died in. For a long time, people looked at that image and felt one thing: horror. But horror isn't actually the strangest part of this story. The strangest part is timing. Because the people of Pompeii didn't die in an instant. They didn't die without warning. In fact, they had almost an entire day. 18 hours, maybe more, of ash falling from a clear blue sky, of pumice stones piling up in the streets like hail that refused to stop. 18 hours to leave, and most of them didn't. That's the part official history tends to gloss over. Not that Vesuvius erupted, everyone knows that, but why thousands of people, watching their world quietly bury itself, chose to stay, to wait, to hope it would pass. Some fled early and lived. Some fled early and died anyway on the road in the dark. And some, for reasons we're only beginning to understand from the bones themselves, never tried to leave at all. This is the story of that day, hour by hour, from the smell of fresh bread in the forum to the final superheated wind that ended it all in under 2 minutes. Some of it we know for certain, carved into plaster casts of the dead. Some of it we can only reconstruct, carefully, scientifically, and we'll always tell you which is which. Because the real mystery of Pompeii was never that it happened. It's why nobody saw it coming, when, in hindsight, the mountain had been screaming for days. Pompeii wakes up the way it always does. Bakers are already awake. Archaeologists have found over 30 bakeries in the city, their millstones still standing, some still holding carbonized loaves stamped with the baker's name. Slaves haul water from public fountains. Somewhere, a dog barks at nothing in particular. It's likely late August, the year 79 AD, though we should say clearly here, some ancient manuscripts of Pliny the Younger's letters give a different month entirely, and a handful of modern archaeologists now argue for an autumn date, based on autumn fruit found preserved in the ruins. Historians are still divided. For this story, we'll follow the traditional dating most widely accepted. But keep that disagreement in your back pocket. It matters more than you'd think. The forum starts filling. Vendors set up stalls selling garum, that pungent fermented fish sauce Romans put on everything. Political graffiti covers the walls. Election season had just wrapped up, and Pompeii's walls are basically an ancient comment section. Opinions scrawled everywhere in charcoal and paint. Nobody in this crowd is thinking about the mountain. Why would they? Vesuvius, to them, isn't a volcano. There's no word for that yet in their vocabulary. It's just a green, fertile hill. Vineyards climb its slopes. Wine from Vesuvius is actually considered excellent. Here's where it gets uncomfortable in hindsight. Small earthquakes had been rattling the region for days, maybe longer. Pliny the Younger later wrote that tremors were so common in Campania, they barely caused alarm anymore. The region had suffered a much larger, devastating earthquake back in 62 AD, and the city was still, 17 years later, repairing damage from it. So a few shakes on this particular morning, nobody blinks. When you live somewhere, the ground moves regularly. You stop listening to it. Priests at the Temple of Isis prepare for rituals. This temple, oddly, would end up one of the best preserved buildings in the entire city. Merchants argue over prices. A wealthy household in the Villa of the Mysteries begins its day with the quiet choreography of dozens of enslaved workers, keeping the machine of upper-class Roman life running. Cooking, cleaning, tending to the family who legally owned them. We know these divisions of life vividly, not from records, but from the plaster casts themselves. Rings on fingers, hobnailed boots on feet, the small, brutal detail of who could afford what, even in their final moments. Down at the coast, Herculaneum is a different kind of town. Smaller, wealthier per capita, built for people who wanted a sea view without Pompeii's noise. Fishermen are already out. Boat sheds along the shoreline sit empty, waiting for the day's catch. Across the Bay of Naples at Misenum, a Roman fleet commander is going about his morning. His name is Gaius Plinius Secundus, Pliny the Elder, naval officer, scholar, obsessive collector of facts about the natural world. He has no idea he's about to become one of history's few named victims of a disaster we still study almost 2,000 years later. The sun climbs. Bathhouses fill with the usual crowd escaping the heat. Life continues with the specific mundane rhythm of a Tuesday or whatever day this technically was, because nobody in Pompeii was living the last day of their lives on purpose. That's what makes this story haunting instead of just tragic. It's the absolute total normalcy of it. Stronger tremors now, according to the geological record layered beneath the ash itself. Still nothing that would have seemed apocalyptic. Romans didn't have seismographs. They had instinct. And instinct told them, this is just how Campania behaves sometimes. Here's where we have to be honest about the record. We don't have a precise timestamp for exactly when panic should have started. What we have is geology working backward from the debris, and one letter written decades later by a teenager who watched it all from across the bay. Around 1 p.m., this timing comes largely from Pliny the Younger's own account. Something extraordinary tears open the summit of Vesuvius. Not lava, not yet. A column of gas, ash, and pulverized rock blasts upward with such force it punches straight through the stratosphere. Pliny the Younger, watching from Misenum, would later describe the shape rising over the mountain by comparing it to an umbrella pine, a tree with a long bare trunk that suddenly spreads wide at the top. It's one of the most quoted lines in ancient literature, and honestly, it's just accurate. Modern volcanologists still use Plinian eruption as the technical term for this exact kind of event, named after him. In Pompeii, 14 miles from the summit, people start noticing. First, it's just a strange darkening in the sky to the northwest. Then it's undeniable. A churning gray-black column climbing miles into the atmosphere, catching sunlight in a way nothing in their experience has prepared them for. Some run toward the spectacle to watch. Some run home. Most probably just stand there. The very human reaction to something too large to immediately process as danger. Fine gray ash begins drifting down over Pompeii, dusting rooftops, settling in courtyard gardens like dirty snow. It's light, almost gentle. If you'd never seen a volcano erupt before, and nobody alive in Pompeii had, this might not even register as an emergency yet. But the wind, that day, is blowing steadily southeast, straight toward Pompeii, straight away from Herculaneum. That single detail of wind direction is about to decide who gets time to think and who doesn't. Now it's not just ash. Chunks of pale, lightweight volcanic pumice start raining down, some the size of a fist. It doesn't hurt much on contact. Pumice is famously light for its size, but it accumulates fast. Streets that were clear an hour ago now have a visible gray layer growing across them. Some residents begin packing belongings. Others watch from doorways, uncertain, waiting to see if this is a storm that passes. Across the bay, Pliny the Elder receives an urgent message, a request for help from a woman named Rectina, whose villa near the base of the volcano has no escape route by land. As commander of the fleet, and driven equally, his nephew tells us, by scientific curiosity, he orders the ships prepared. He is sailing toward the eruption, while everyone else in Campania is trying to get away from it. By mid-afternoon, the ash column has spread so wide it begins blotting out the sun. In Pompeii, day is turning into an unnatural twilight, and it isn't even 3 p.m. Pumice deposits are now several inches deep. Roofs groan under the accumulating weight. Some structures, especially older or poorly maintained buildings, begin to crack. Panic, real panic, starts spreading through the city now. This is the point where staying starts to feel like the wrong choice to more and more people. Families load carts, grab what they can carry, and head for the city gates. Streets choke with people, animals, wagons, and a growing carpet of pumice stone making every step harder than the last. This is also, tragically, when the roads become dangerous in their own right. Falling pumice can injure. Roofs give way onto streets below, and it's slow going. Modern reconstructions suggest walking through knee-deep pumice would have been genuinely exhausting, like wading through loose gravel that keeps shifting under your feet. Not everyone leaves. Some are too old, too sick, enslaved and without freedom of movement, or simply convinced, as people often are in a crisis, that things will get better before they get worse. Here's a detail people often miss. Herculaneum, sitting closer to the volcano but downwind of the ash, had barely any pumice fall at all through this entire stretch of the day. For hours, that made it seem like the safer place to be. It wasn't. Sometime in the evening hours, the eruption column becomes unstable. This happens periodically in Plinian eruptions when the column can no longer sustain its own height, and it collapses. When it does, it doesn't fall as ash. It falls as a pyroclastic surge, a ground-hugging cloud of superheated gas and volcanic debris that can move at highway speeds and reach temperatures scientists estimate at several hundred degrees Celsius. Herculaneum, so close to the source, is hit first. People who had gathered in boat chambers along the shoreline, over 300 sets of remains found there in modern excavations, appear to have died almost instantly from the thermal shock. Not suffocation, not burial, heat. Pliny arrives near Stabiae, south of Pompeii, but conditions have deteriorated too far to sail back. Falling debris and violent, uncertain seas trap the fleet at shore. He goes ashore to the villa of his friend Pompeii'S, and according to his nephew's account, tries, almost stubbornly, to project calm. He reportedly bathes, eats dinner, and even sleeps for a time, apparently to reassure the terrified household around him. Historians debate how much of this detail is literal fact versus how Pliny the Younger chose to frame his uncle's courage for posterity. Either way, it's one of the only individually documented human responses we have from this entire catastrophe. A real person trying to hold a room together while the sky burns. Back in Pompeii, pumice accumulation is now around a meter deep and climbing. Buildings are failing under the sheer weight. Archaeological evidence shows roof and upper floor collapses account for a real portion of deaths in this window, crushing those still sheltering indoors. Convinced walls were safer than open streets. It's a devastating irony worth sitting with for a second. The decision to stay inside, which felt like safety, was killing people just as surely as the decision to run. Night falls, though at this point, does it even matter? It's already been dark for hours under the ash cloud. Survivors later described through Pliny the Younger's letter, shouting in the blackness, people calling out for family members they couldn't see, some wailing that the gods had abandoned the world entirely, Some, and this detail always gets me, praying that this darkness simply was the end of everything, because it was somehow easier to believe in universal apocalypse than in a disaster limited to their own town. Along Pompeii's coastline, a small number of residents attempt escape by sea, but the same violent surf trapping Pliny's fleet at Stabiae makes launching boats from Pompeii's harbor increasingly hopeless. Some skeletons found along the ancient shoreline, in boat sheds strikingly similar to Herculaneum's, suggest people waiting there, hoping for calmer water that never came. For those who never left, or couldn't, this stretch of night is simply endurance. Ash inhalation is a genuine, escalating danger now. Modern medical analysis of Pompeii's victims points to respiratory distress as a real contributing factor for people trapped for this long in ash-thick air, even before the surges arrive. Some households huddle together in back rooms, pillows or cloth held over their faces. Pathetic protection against what's actually still ahead of them, though, of course, they don't know that yet. By the deepest part of the night, pumice deposits in parts of Pompeii approach 2 to 3 meters. Streets that were walkable hours ago are now nearly impassable. Doorways are half buried. From above, if anyone could have seen it, the city would already look less like a town and more like the ghost of one. This is the hour everything historians and volcanologists agree matters most. And it's also where our confidence in exact minute-by-minute detail drops, replaced by careful reconstruction from layered deposits in the ground itself. In the pre-dawn hours, the eruption column collapses again, more violently, sending a pyroclastic surge racing toward Pompeii itself. Unlike the slow, almost patient burial by pumice over the previous 18 hours, this arrives in minutes. At Stabiae, around this same window, Pliny the Elder, struggling to breathe, possibly from the effects of the toxic fumes and his own poor health, collapses and dies. His companions later find his body largely undisturbed, which has led some historians to suggest a sudden cardiac event brought on by the surrounding chaos, rather than being directly caught in the surge itself. We genuinely don't know for certain. Pliny the Younger simply tells us his uncle was found looking more asleep than dead. Multiple surges now sweep across Pompeii in succession. This is confirmed by the distinct layered bands geologists find when they cut through the volcanic deposits, each surge leaving its own signature. The people who remained, likely several thousand, are met with a wall of superheated gas and ash, moving far faster than any human could outrun. This is where modern forensic science has completely rewritten what we thought we knew. For nearly 2 centuries after excavation began, the hollow plaster casts of Pompeii's victims were interpreted as people frozen mid-suffocation, slowly buried alive by ash. Recent studies of bone composition and posture tell a different, arguably more merciful story. Many victims appear to have died from instant thermal shock, not minutes of suffocation, seconds of unbearable heat. It's a strange kind of comfort, honestly, buried in genuinely disturbing science. Successive surges bury the dead exactly where they fell. A woman shielding a child. A group huddled together in what was probably a final useless attempt at safety. A man clutching a bag of coins as though currency would matter anymore. These aren't dramatizations. These are the actual positions archaeologists uncovered centuries later, when Giuseppe Fiorelli pioneered the technique of pouring plaster into the voids left by decomposed bodies inside the hardened ash, essentially casting a mold of the exact final moment of a human being's life. That technique is why Pompeii feels different from almost any other ancient disaster site on Earth. Most history gives us artifacts. Pompeii gives us poses. By full daylight, the first real daylight in over half a day, Pompeii no longer exists as a visible city. It's a gray, undulating landscape of hardened ash and pumice, roughly 4 to 6 meters deep in places, erasing streets, rooflines, doorways, an entire urban grid, as though someone had simply poured the mountain over the town and walked away. Across the bay, Pliny the Younger and his mother, having fled Misenum themselves under a hail of ash, survive. He is around 17 years old. Decades later, at the request of the historian Tacitus, he writes down what he witnessed, the only surviving eyewitness account of the eruption we have. Historians consider it one of the most valuable documents in the history of science, not because it's poetic, though it is, but because it's precise enough that volcanologists still use it to classify eruptions of this exact type worldwide to this day. Pompeii wasn't lost to history the way most ruins are. Slowly, through neglect, war, or reuse, it was sealed, preserved in a single catastrophic instant, then forgotten so completely that for nearly 17 centuries, people simply didn't know exactly where it was anymore. Roman writers mentioned it had existed. Nobody could point to it on a map. When excavation finally began in the 1700s, what emerged wasn't just a ruined city. It was a paused one, bread still in ovens, graffiti still legible on walls, and eventually, those unforgettable casts of people who never got the 18 hours they thought they had. So here's the question worth sitting with. The one the title of this story was always really asking, why didn't they leave? Some couldn't. Some didn't believe it was necessary until it very obviously was, and by then the roads were already buried. Some, the evidence suggests, simply ran out of time doing the very human thing of waiting one more hour to see if it would pass. Maybe that's the real uncomfortable legacy of Pompeii. Not that a volcano destroyed a city. Nature does that everywhere. Eventually, it's that an entire population had almost a full day of visible, mounting warning, and still, the gap between knowing something is wrong and believing it enough to act on it turned out to be the most dangerous distance in the whole disaster. 2,000 years later, we still haven't fully closed that gap. Maybe that's why this story hasn't let go of us yet.